Good morning, good morning, good morning, soul men and friends, people. And this morning we have got the very inspirational James Hughes, back by popular demand. I know that you all love James, and I'm so gutted because next week's James's last surgery. However, it will not be the last you hear of James. I'm absolutely sure that James and I will do some more work in the future. On all different things, and we said last week that James and potentially Nicolas, actually a wee bit of collaboration coming into the shop, maybe doing some workshops with you guys. So that's something quite exciting that may be in the pipeline. I don't want to commit them to it, but I'm committing them to it live on air. So without further ado, I'm going to pull James in. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Here he comes. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How are we?
I am brilliant. I'm gutted that next week is your last week. I know that you're a bit gutted as well, but do you know what? Life has to return to some sort of normality, doesn't it?
We've had a good run, Stephen. We've had a good run. And like you said, yes, of course, you don't want to commit us to anything, but I think we're already committed. I think we're already...
Good. Yes! Heard it here first.
You could give me that and me to come on and be all cagey and go, we'll wait and see what happens, don't want to commit to anything.
No, that's brilliant. I'm so happy. So, today, James, what is our chat today? What are we talking about? Because I know that this is a bit of a surprise for me as well, because you've said there that this is going to blow your mind.
Well, it blew my mind, right? It blew my socks off, actually. And it's going to sound really somber. I'm going to build this up here, right? It's going to sound like, oh shit, he's going to be dead depressed today, actually. And it's not. It's the complete opposite. But it's the association that we put with things. So today I'm going to talk about pain and suffering. Stephen, hold on 1 second. I'm going to put you on airplane mode because I realised that a night mode, because messages started coming through and I thought all I need is for somebody to phone me. So we're going to talk about pain and suffering and the choices that's in with pain and suffering. Now, we've spoke loads about things that's happened to us in our past. We've spoke about how it's defined our present. And I always say that your past doesn't define your future, doesn't equal your future. And that's a really important thing to live by, I think, personally. Because our life, as I've said many, many times, it's just a subjective view on our past experience. But it doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean it's in that present moment. And a lot of people choose to live in suffering. In suffering, we spoke a few weeks ago about the ego, and suffering is a choice to live in the ego, or I live in the ego, live for you. And myself and Nicolas actually done a really intense course recently on pain and suffering. And I always think we've spoke about it. You hear the same thing over and over. Not anything I say, anything you say, anything that any of your other fabulous guests say on a weekly basis. It's never really different. It's just worded differently. But the subtext of it all is always the same. It's always has the same underlying message. It's all a choice. Everything is a choice. And I think what I learned recently was that pain's all around us, right? And never a more prevalent time in our lives is pain around us. Yesterday, what day is it? Monday, sorry. We had was it yesterday, the 1 year anniversary? I think it was Monday was the day and yesterday was the date.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, what a year. Like, really, for me, what a magnificent year. And I can say that wholeheartedly and so lovingly. I am so grateful for this experience. But suffering is a choice. Suffering within this last year is a choice because you can't change it. But you can choose to live in ego. You can choose to make that suffering the most cultivating thing within your body, and then that starts to ripple out to your life, and it starts to affect your friends and your family and your job, and you live in all of that fear. And that's all it is. Suffering is just a choice to say, I'm going to make this about me. It's all about me. Here's COVID has affected millions upon millions of people, billions of people worldwide. Millions of people have lost their lives, but yet, do you know what? It's all about me. I'm suffering here. Pain's around you. And you can either choose to accept it and go, like I just said there, I am so grateful. I'm not grateful for the suffering and what people have gone through, but I'm grateful for the experience that this has brought and taught me within the last year. So I really want to kind of today touch on the difference of, well, you can choose to make that distinction of pain's here, and that's fine. That's pain's going on, but I can still live in this beautiful state, this cultivated state, this state of gratitude, whatever you choose to live in. And also, to be grateful. A guy, world famous life coach Michael Neal, and I listen to his podcast every day. If you don't listen to him, it's called Caffeine for the Soul. They're great. They're little 7 or 8 minute bites. It's something I touch on and talk about a lot. And they're just great. They're dead insightful. Me and Nicolas recently launched a podcast, and it's just a little conversation. And to be honest, it's where it came from is Michael Neal, because it's so, I don't want to say it's not insignificant, but the approach to it is so relaxed and so insignificant that it's just about planting the seed and letting it cultivate. And that's when your choices start to change. We start to provoke different questions within ourselves, and we then start to get these better answers again. So where was my point? The gratitude part. So Michael Neal spoke about how when he was younger, and you're probably the same as me, and I'm sure many of the listeners are today as well. When I was younger, you were told, say thanks. Did you say thank you? It could have been for nothing. I didn't even want it, but I still had to say thanks for it. So we were taught that gratitude, to be thankful, was associated to someone or for something. And it's really not. It's nothing to do with those things. Yes, be grateful for people giving you things, for people doing things for you. You need to be grateful for that if you truly appreciate it. But also be grateful just to sit in that space of gratitude. You don't have to be or do or associate it with anything or anyone. You just have to sit in that space of gratitude. And when you sit in that space of gratitude, you automatically lose power to the suffering, because suffering stops being about you. Gratitude is about the moment. Gratitude is about the present.
Mm-hmm.
So I think with this time, Nicolas spoke a lot about it last week as well. This time is really a time to think about how do you move forward. And I thought the pain and suffering element was a really strong one to get people geared up that we can move back into a place of work. Because I'm not going to lie, I'm going back to a full-time job whilst I have dramatically changed where I see my future and how I want to live my life. But no matter what comes of this for me, what I've seen can't be unseen. What I now know, I can't forget it. I can't, retrain my brain to realise that everything that's happening around me is just an experience, and it's my relationship to that experience that shapes how I feel about it. Life is happening all around us, things are happening all around us, but the most important part is your experience.
Mm-hmm.
So you change it from suffering and ego to gratitude, and you very quickly start to change and cultivate a different environment and a different being of you.
Absolutely. Do you know, you're really making me think as well, because I done a post last week all about introducing us back into society almost. And I said to people, I speak to so many people, James, and they say, I can't wait to get back. I can't wait to go back. I can't wait to be back to normal. And what I was saying with that is, we'll never ever go back. We're going to start to experience new experiences, wonderful new experiences. I cannot wait. I don't drink alcohol at all, right? But I can't wait to have a fucking drink. And I don't drink. It's not something, but I want to go out. I want to get drunk, and I want to have a really bad hangover. I want to go out and have that delicious meal.
Yeah.
And I want to eat it like it's the first time that I've ever done it. When we open the shop, I want to open the shop like it's the first time. So I think that's the thing. We can't go back. We're eternally grateful for everything that our life has given us over the last year. So, why not use that to propel ourselves forward?
And going back there's not a lot of gratitude in that, because all of that was taken for granted.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like all of those things you said, they come from a place of gratitude. They come from a place of new experience, because you're experiencing those things as the first time again. And I think, I'm so excited to represent myself to the world as this new person who the last couple of months I've really invested in myself. I've really invested in the people around me. I've really invested in these things. And this was a biggie for me, to come on every single week and be reciprocated with the Soul Man surgery and with Stephen the Soul Man, who I've known about for a very, very long time and didn't realise that I knew about who you actually were, and you think, wait a minute, this is no longer about trying to live up to your peers. This is about now saying, this is where I'm at. This is who I am. And this is now how I conduct myself. And if you've been living in the last year of conducting yourself in a place of suffering, which is poor me, trying to find significance, trying to find contribution, looking for certainty or uncertainty, all those human needs that we spoke about the before, that's how you're going to represent yourself back to the world. You're going to represent yourself back in a place of completely insignificance, because when you try to find significance within something, you're actually insignificant to yourself, because you're not being true to your true values. People can have the most traumatic experiences. In fact, something I watched the other day was a woman who was in the, was it Mumbai? Remember the fire, the terrorist attack in the hotel?
Mm-hmm.
And she still lived with the trauma of that every single day. And rather than her being a survivor and now thriving from that moment, she was reliving being a victim within that moment. She was very successful, very affluent. She had everything going for her. She was an Englishwoman, and she had so much going for her. But yet she still lived in that. But then when I hear these thoughts and I hear the gunshots and I smell the smoke, and I remember reliving that over and over and over and over, the pain has happened. It doesn't take away from the pain, but you're reliving that suffering every single day. Now, what about if you change that suffering to something of thank you? Something simple. Thank me to go through that experience and change to be this incredible version of myself. I've spoke before about the I am statements. Change them to truly empowered emotions, not words, because words are just words, but truly empowered emotions. I am amazing. I am worth it. I am here. And sometimes that is just enough. I am here, and I am breathing, and I am in this moment. And see if that's all I've got to be grateful for within that moment. That ends the suffering straight away. Your suffering is gone. Because you're just present, you're just grateful. And it sounds a lot to say, I'm just, but just sometimes all you need. All you need to be is just grateful for what you have, where you are. And you don't need to sit around and go, I'm grateful for that lamp, I'm grateful for that bookcase, grateful for that cow. Because then you're attacking that again. Like that, say thank you, say thanks to him for giving you that sweet, bit creepy, but say thanks to him. That is when you put the condition of gratitude.
Sorry.
That's when you put the condition of gratitude to things or people. But if you just be grateful, it instantly ends the suffering.
Do you think, James, right now, this is really interesting, because I've been speaking about this a lot. Gratitude is something that I suppose I've always lived my life by, and it's a very natural thing for me. But what I see is like many people, waking up spiritually over the last 10 years or so, and I think that gratitude can often be used in the wrong way, because it's so, it's quite fashionable to talk about gratitude and the law of attraction now. When I'll sometimes speak to people who have had real life experiences that have been really difficult, and they'll say, I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
And they're no.
That's the...
But they're no.
You don't know.
No, so like, they're grateful for the learning behind it, right? But what they'll say is things like, I'm really grateful for my car. I'm really grateful for. So they're grateful for the things that they have, but they're not grateful for the experience of learning. Not truly. And I know that sounds really bad, but because they're still talking from a place of pain. So I'll always think, when I'm hearing these people talking, I'm saying, So you can't really truly be grateful if you're still associating that with massive pain and you're pulling that pain into your present constantly. Would you agree with that, or do you think that I'm just overthinking it?
No, but that's the difference of choosing pain and suffering. So you can choose to accept that suffering's there, and that's just an emotion, that's a feeling, and get behind it, and then flip that emotion and be like, I am so grateful for that experience. Now that's not saying I'm so grateful for that car. If that car that you're grateful for driving, of course, I drive a nice car, I'm really grateful that I've got the ability to drive it. But I don't have a condition attached to that. If my life changed and I lost that car, it really, Stephen, now doesn't change the gratitude that I have within me for this experience, for this moment to sit and talk. I actually feel a bit teary even saying that. For this experience and moment in life of getting to engage with you, of getting to touch people who the other day, a girl who I've been speaking to and working with, lost our partner to suicide. And I got this most beautiful message. And I done nothing but have a chat with her. And I'm so grateful for that experience because she's got a wee girl to look after. There's a huge situation around there that I am in awe of this person still able to get up every single day and put a smile on her face, put makeup on her face, take a wee girl to school, hold down a job. I'm grateful for that experience because the conversation I had, the pain and suffering conversation, helped flip her mindset that I've still gone through what I've gone through. As painful as it was, I don't have to live in the suffering of that. I'm grateful for that experience because it doesn't make the love that I had for my partner any less. If anything, it makes it stronger. But I still have to go on, and I'm grateful for the fact that I'm here. I've got a daughter and I have a life to live. Now, I am eternally grateful for being given those skills in life when I was born to be able to engage and relate and listen and chat to folk. You might not think I listen much because all I do is talk. But
not at all, don't be daft.
When needed, they're the skills and tools that's taken me to this point. And it's not, I'm not going to sit here and say that, oh God, 20 years it's taken me to get to this point. It hasn't. Last year, a moment took me to this point. I changed my mindset, took me to this point that I realised that I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy with that nice car. I wasn't happy with this nice flat. If anything, I probably didn't appreciate Kenny as much as I really should have. And the love that I have for him and the love that I have for my family, it's unmeasurable now because I'm so grateful to have them. I'm not grateful to have a lamp or a TV or a coffee table. They mean nothing. They're all replaceable things. They're all inanimate objects that I can go out and replace at any point. I can't replace the time and the relationships and the love that I have for my family and my friends. In that moment of clarity that I had last year, and I can still remember it so vividly, changed something within me. There was a feeling that changed within me. And I can't even articulate it to you. I can't describe it to you. It's always been there because I've always done this. I've always had this conversation. I've always engaged in all of this. But I never truly believed that I had the ability to move my life forward in that way because I was never truly grateful for the abilities that I had.
Mm-hmm.
That was suffering. That was all ego. I choose to be, I'm not good enough and I'm not this and I'm not that and maybe I should. That's just all about me. And when we think back to the 6 human needs, I was looking for connection. I was looking for significance within my life. And if I'm not good enough, I can certainly find 100 other people around about me who think they're not good enough. And straight away, we've got an instant connection because we can all talk about that. Oh, well, my partner, oh, he's such a dick. Oh, so's mine. Oh, well, he's an even bigger dick. Oh, he done this. Well, my partner done. That's significance. But that's also suffering. That's choosing to live in suffering.
Yeah.
Last night I was doing a bit of work online and Kenny came in to go to his bed and it was 10 o'clock and I said to him, has Ollie been taking out our dog? And he went, no. I done the dishes and I was like, shit, I need to take Ollie out now. Now, I love taking my dog out. I really enjoy taking my dog out. But I made that moment about me rather than going, he's tired, he's shattered, he's been up all day, he's been up since 6. He's had a busy day, he's mentally drained, he's wrote new timetable. It didn't stop all day. But yet in that moment, I made that about me because he chose to go to his bed rather than him putting me first. So I was looking for connection and I was looking for significance. That I'm more important. You're going to your bed and you're making me take all of it? No. I choose to live in suffering. And straight away, I just got behind it. I got behind that suffering. I was aware it was a feeling that I was having. And I was still allowed to have and experience that feeling. But fuck, don't live in it. Mm-hmm. Don't live in experience because that is only going to cultivate more suffering. And then what's going to happen is I'm going to start a fight. I'm going to choose to say, you're so selfish and I can't believe you've done that. Me, 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 me. Hearing it, it's all about me. It's all about me. It's all about me. And it was never about me. It was about him being tired. And it was about me thinking that he should have done that.
I love it.
But we all have and live in these conversations every single day. And I think now that I'm seeing this, I'm like, start to get excited by it. Start to really get excited by the suffering. Because the suffering really brings your awareness to the moment of saying, you know, you just said it there about people who have had life-altering experiences and they're only really grateful for the things that they have. Now, that's a lesson that I think has just not been learned at all, and it's a shame. If God or grace or universe, I'm not religious, by the way, when I talk about God. I now identify with God in a different perspective. I identify with God as universal energy, as something that I can feel connected to, not governed by, but connected to. And you can call it grace, you can call it universe, you can call it big mind, whatever you want it to be. But that's that saying, listen, Dafty, this is me trying to tell you something. If you can't hear this, if you can't be grateful for what you have in this moment, or you can't use this experience and opportunity to change, because that's all it is. It's a choice to change. You don't have to do anything. You just have to make the choice. You don't have to get up and write a big letter. You can do that. You can put it on paper and read it back to yourself. You can run around the park naked and hug a tree if you want. But that's also a choice. You can choose in this moment to say that I no longer choose to live in suffering. I surrender. I don't tolerate it anymore. And that's the biggest part. Do not tolerate suffering. Accept pain, because we're all going to experience it. We're all going to lose loved ones. We're all going to lose jobs. We're all going to lose wealth. But again, that's you living in the experience of your external circumstances if you choose suffering. But if you're living in gratitude and you're living in gratefulness and you choose to accept that these things happen, you can still be okay and grieve. You can still be okay and lose your partner. You can still be okay and lose all your wealth. But you can choose to not allow that to bring you down with it. You know, these things are unfortunate events that will always happen to us. You know, the only thing that's guaranteed to us in our life is that we're born and we die, as we all know. If you choose to live in the suffering of someone dying before they die, you're missing the moments of living. You're missing the moments of enjoyment, of experience, of connecting, and then holding on to those memories. And, you know, we can look back at photographs and see our grandparents and our parents and our loved ones that have passed. This is sounding really morbid this morning. This isn't where I was planning this to go.
Not at all.
Actually, I forgot who I'm talking to.
Exactly.
We can look at those moments and memories and moments in time, and yes, shed a tear for them. But the love that I think when I look back and I see pictures of my grandparents and family members that are no longer with us fills me with so much love, because I've got such incredible memories with those people. And I'm grateful for that. I'm very grateful for having that. I'm very grateful for having the family and the experiences that I've had. I know everyone hasn't had that in their life. But what they have had is incredible moments.
Do you know, it's interesting when you talk about the whole gratitude thing with your grandparents and everything else, because it's I suppose it's quite a raw nerve for me now, because I just lost my granny in September. And for anybody who knows me, anybody who ever met my granny, she was my biggest fan. She was like, she just adored me. I absolutely adored her. And I had lots of really open and honest conversations with my granny. I could tell her anything and vice versa. And she had 30 heart attacks before she passed, right? So she was bloody strong woman. And the last time that I actually had a proper conversation with her, she was in hospital, and she was really, really unwell. And I'd said to her, I said, Granny, you know, how do you feel? Because I know that these are the last months of your life. And she's like, I know, I can feel that now, darling. And I said to her, I was like, so, like, what is if you could share, what is your biggest inspiration in life? What's the best thing that you've done? Because I was just asking her loads of random questions, and she said, Stephen, I spent such a long time of my life trying to be a busy mum, trying to deal with stuff, trying to pay the rent, trying to pay the mortgage, trying to, there was loads and loads of stuff going on with her during her life. She worked 2 jobs, and then later in life, everything calmed down. But none of it, absolutely nothing that she had worked so hard her whole life to achieve, even came close to the relationship that she had with me. And she said, see, when you were born, and my mum, everybody will tell you this, before I was born, my granny was quite a tough old bugger, or tough young bugger at the time. And when I was born, she said that it completely changed her, because she felt love like she'd never felt before. She loved me. Everybody says that she loved me more than she loved her own children. And then my sister came along, and obviously she loved us both equally. But she said to me in those last few months of her life, Stephen, none of it mattered. Not one bit of it mattered. The only thing that mattered was spending that time with you and your sister. How powerful is that, though? And I've heard someone else say that, which is interesting. About 15 years ago, I was down in London at the Hay House Summit, and I was very grateful to meet Louise Hay before she passed, and we'd met her backstage, had a wee chat with her, and she'd done a talk all about, now that she was in the twilight years of her life, because she was in her 90s at that point. And she'd said as well, all the riches, everything that I have, all of my wealth that I have obtained in life, it means nothing when you look at the connections that I have with my family and my friends. Yeah. So all the money side of things done for her was make her comfortable, The most important things for her were the connections that she had with the people that she loved. And when my granny was talking about that, it really reminded me of that. I was like, you sound like Louise Hay. And she's like, who's that? I was like, you need to know who Louise Hay is, Granny. Come on. And then, see, at the very end of my granny's life, sorry, James, I'm like...
I love this. Please go.
Using this space. But at the very end of my granny's life, she was sitting eating soup one night and in the hospital, and then she just started coughing, and she never regained consciousness. So she lay there for 3 days just fighting, absolutely fighting, because I knew that she wanted to be here. She didn't want to pass. And I sat there with her for 3 days, chatting to her. I knew she could hear me, chatting to her and trying to convince her to let go of life. Trying to reassure her that she could let go, and that the next step was just another step, another part of her journey, and that she would still be able to be around us. And it was the greatest privilege to help her to pass. And my mum and my mum was on one side, I was on the other side. And I said to my mum, because my mum and her had quite a turbulent time when my mum was young, I said to my mum, you need to forgive her. You need to allow her to go, and you need to give her that forgiveness. And my mum said, Mum, I forgive you. You're no coming back from this now. You need to go and find John, which is my granddad. And minutes later, she passed. And it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. And I am so grateful for being able to be there and have that experience and to help her across. So it really did make me reevaluate and, I suppose, look at my own life and think, for the last 10 years, I've been working really hard and probably not taking enough time to spend with the family. So, yeah, that's my reevaluation of things, and that's where I'm going to really start to think, actually, because it's very easy when you're very passionate about the job that you do to be so absorbed in it and so involved in it that you forget to take time off.
Well, that's an element of suffering as well, Stephen. Because then you look for significance within something, and you then start to identify with that. You know, you're almost at a point of self-sabotaging yourself by not wanting to take the time off. So you're making that about you. You know, when you say people need this and people need that, but I need to do this. That's ego. That's me. And I think this is what we realize, that listen to those questions, or listen to those statements that we're all saying. When somebody else needs something, for instance, we will say, "Oh, you're feeling a bit whatever today," or "You're angry," or whatever. Actually, if you stopped and ask yourself, "Is it me that's feeling that?" Because don't get me wrong, you can walk into the room, and we've spoken about from an energetic connection. You can walk into a room and quickly go, "Oh, bit ropey in here, there for a fight," and that's picking up on other energies. But if you and your partner, you and your close family, if you're projecting something onto somebody about, "Oh, no, you're dead snappy today," your physiology's changing, your emotional state's changing. Actually ask yourself, is it me that's dead snappy today? How we present ourselves is how the world represents itself back to us. If somebody's come in and they're starting to snap back, well, did you snap to them first? You know, what was your emotional state when you went into that situation and circumstance? Is it you that's presenting that? Is it you that's projecting that onto someone else? So I think that's a really important thing to even just stop in that moment and say, wait a minute, before I ask that person, is it me that's feeling this? Am I feeling insecure? Am I feeling upset? Am I feeling emotional today? And that's where we can then differentiate between, because pain and suffering, for what we know in this environment, is pain is like somebody hurting me, punching me, whatever else, or going through grief. Suffering is, well, I'm suffering because of that grief. Well, it's not. The grief happened, the pain happened, that accident happened, that experience happened. But the suffering is a choice to live in that experience. We're 100% responsible for our experiences, but we're not responsible for what's happening around about us.
Yeah. Do you know, it's interesting because I think I view grief very differently. It's so weird.
Yeah, a surprise.
Like, people say this to me, right? Now, I know it sounds really strange, but like, see when my granny passed, I walked out the hospital that night and I walked home just because I wanted to walk home. And I walked up the road like, oh, how amazing was that? And I got in the door and I was like, Nikki, she's passed. And Nikki was like, didn't look so fucking happy about it. And I've never felt like upset or, you know, I miss her. I miss, like, physically talking to her and physically being able to, like, pick her up and go, come here, you wee shite, give me a hug, you know. But I can't say that I'm grieving. Well, it's really strange.
And you're not suffering for the loss of your gran.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you loved her, and the pain of losing her, of course, when you didn't want to get to that point of her going. That's the pain of losing somebody, then that's adding suffering to it, and that's when you start to make it about me or you. But when you give up that suffering and she's passed, and you realise that actually in fact, Stephen, there's 3 ways to overcome suffering, and they are love. Let me take another one. Growth and contribution.
Mm-hmm.
Love and enjoyment. So there was a lot of love there. There was a growth. You were able to grow within that moment of being with somebody that you truly love and help them pass. And contribution, you helped her. You helped. And that's the 3 ways to diminish suffering within an instance. Now, there was pain attached to losing her, of course, because she died. At the last stages, she was really unwell. She'd had 30 heart attacks. She'd gone through all that point, and she was fighting. And there's pain involved in seeing somebody fighting in resistance. Resistance meets resistance. You know, so that moment, of course, is painful. But for you, it wasn't suffering. It wasn't grieving. It was I'm here to do what I'm meant to do.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that I have this connection with this woman, I am contributing to her passing over, and that is a truly incredible thing. Anybody I've ever spoken to who's been there with a loved one at the last stages of their life, I've all said exactly the same thing. It was an honour to be there with them, to see that last breath.
Yeah. And do you think as well, like, see, because I look at, you know, relationships that have ended in the past, And I actually look at these things like, instead of seeing them as negatives, because anything that's ever ended. So 4 years ago, 4 years ago now, 4 years, my God, I left my old business. And when I left, it hurt me, right? Because I'd worked so hard to create. But when I handed that over, I'd done it with, like, I just want to thank you, and here you go. And it may not have ended the way that we wanted, but I want to thank you for that, and here you go. And I never left on bad terms or anything. A relationship that I had before I met Nikki, it was very much like, here's your ring back, take it. And it wasn't horrible, it didn't end in a bad way. Last year, not last year, the year before, I keep thinking last year's 2019, me and Nikki went to a divorce party for two of our friends, and they'd been together for such a long time, and they just said, this isn't working anymore. So they amicably split, and it was this amazing, amazing ceremony where the officiant dissolved their marriage, and they gave the rings back and put the rings in a box and gave the rings back to the officiant, and thanked each other for all of the amazing lessons that they'd learned in their relationship. They hugged, they had a first dance, or a last dance it was. It was amazing. So do you think, I think the way that we've been programmed and conditioned to live and think is backwards. Because if we could turn pain into something different, what a different life it would, or what a different society we would live in.
Well, you still have that connection. You've still got a connection with someone in whatever capacity it may be. And I think before I says about the concept of a relationship, well, the concept of a relationship is relating to someone. Now, because the relationship doesn't work, because these aren't energetically aligned, your life's going off in different. Now, don't get me wrong, I think there's a lot of times that people will be in a difficult relationship because of whatever, and you have to cut ties and you have to walk away from it. But when
sometimes they're just dickheads, eh? And that's fine.
If they're never prepared to see it in a relationship, if it's bad, if you work on yourself and it doesn't change, well, that's time to walk away from that relationship, because a lot of times we project what our insecurities, our feelings, all of these things are suffering onto that other person. If you work on yourself and you see the change in the relationship, well, that's great. Then you can then make the decision whether you still want to be with that person. But if something's a dick, then there's no change in them, and they've been a dick from the get-go, or it's alcohol, or it's some kind of self-sabotaging, some suffering, some hurt that they're going through, it's very difficult for you to try and change that person, because they have to want to see that. So that's different in terms of how you end a relationship. But it doesn't mean I wasn't good within that relationship. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden you have to now associate only suffering with that period of time, because my last relationship wasn't good. But I don't associate only suffering with that last relationship. I associate so much growth in that last relationship. I don't identify who I was in many ways, but I identify now where I am because of those experiences. I don't blame them. I have absolutely no hurt, hatred, pain towards that person. I wish them nothing but love and all the best in their life, because I've got that in my life. We weren't compatible. We weren't compatible from the get-go. So rather than us kind of, always going off, we were just going further and further and further in different directions and still staying together, and that should have ended. So you have to, I think you have to be smart. And we've got, have you ever heard of the Crazy Eight?
Yeah, I have actually.
Two primary emotions that we constantly go through. And a lot of the time, that's what happens in relationships. You'll be angry, you'll be frustrated, whatever they may be. And normally it's male and female energies that people will try and associate with. So it's anger, male. If it's compassion, then it's female. In that Crazy Eight cycle, well, you get yourself lost in that. And actually, that's where the suffering is, because you're creating that suffering within that. And if you can stop it and say, right now, I'm feeling really angry, but it's about me. It's because I'm not fulfilled. I'm not getting what I need from this relationship, from this job, from this friendship. You know, I had a good friend at one point who would no longer really speak anymore. And there was so much about this circle. People have to be in the circle. So she had this constant expectation of what people should do for someone else. And I have no expectation for friends or anybody bringing anything to me. Whatever I get and gain from people, I am so grateful for. But she expected so much. And I thought all she done was set everybody up for a fail. And needless to say, at the end up, she was the one that cut herself off from everybody else because the state that she was in, the responsibility that she put on her experiences as to what was happening in her world, were not aligned. They were not aligned with the suffering and pain that was happening in her life. She was associating the me ego with all the things that was happening, and she just completely distanced herself because it was then everybody else. It was dissolved responsibility. So she gave her significance within her life or within everybody else's life. She was the one that was of hierarchy. She was the one that you didn't support me, you didn't do enough for me, you weren't there for me. But it was the expectation that she set on herself and everybody else around about her.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting though, isn't it? Because like a lot of people that, you know, that we come across in life, I suppose, they disguise themselves as something else. And then what happens is that you find that that person actually starts to show who they really are. And I always find that quite a fascinating process, James, when people are, you know, my gut instinct always tells me right from wrong. And sometimes people come into my life and I find it quite difficult to not come across as rude. So Claire and the guys in the shop will tell you, see if someone comes into the shop that or into my life that I do not blend with, that my energy, if I just pick up that, I come across as really rude because I can't even look them in the eyes. I can't talk to them. Like everything in my energy repels that person, and it's so friggin' bad. Honestly, it's really, really bad. It doesn't happen often to me, but when it does, I usually find that everybody around me really likes that person because they say all the right things, because they're doing all the right things. But it's not for me to say that person's no right. I just have to stand back and allow them to experience what they're going to experience with that person. But why do you think that is?
Part of it, Steve, you're so in tune. Your intuition with people is off the scale from what every other person, you know, every other ordinary mind has. So you're instantly getting, probably from a place of being guarded as well, because maybe that connection you've seen in that person, there's been traits in the people that have done you wrong in the past as well. So it's very easy. Again, there is part of it where your past doesn't equal your future, but you do get a feeling. If we all sit within ourselves and you go, I kind of knew they were going to do that to me, or I felt, or how many times have you said, I'm not seeing him or her anymore, and they go, I knew there was something wrong with her. That little voice, that inner voice, is always the one that guides you. It's always the one, the inner knowing, that will keep you right. It will keep you on the path if you choose to listen to it. So you choose to act upon it. By acting upon it, that is your way of defending yourself and protecting yourself and keeping yourself. I'm not letting them in because I know what that person is capable of, or I can see the personality traits. Sometimes also we can identify things within ourselves that we would choose not to do. You know, we all know our capability. We all know what we can do. You know, I'm a Scorpio. I know I can cut people off. I can be like, you know, that's why I don't get hurt. That's the wrong choice of words. I do get hurt by people, but I choose not to live in that suffering of it. Mm-hmm. So, I'll take so much, and once you're done, I'm cut. I will give you the niceties, but that is all you'll ever get from me. You'll never get back in here. You'll never get back into my environment, to my space, to the people that I love. I'll never ever allow you. So I am very cutthroat with that, and I'm not cold, but I'm just like, hiya, how you doing? Great, no problem. That's all you'll get from me. And that comes from past experience. It also comes from personality traits, of course. But your experience with people has been unlike a lot of others as well. You know, you've got a lot of suffering and a lot of pain. You choose not to live in that. But if you lived in suffering, you would start to attract more of that in. So these people that could potentially cause it, Well, come on in, because I quite like that. That gives me more significance with people. That gives me connection with people. Come on, won't hurt me. I like it. It's all good.
It's really fascinating because honestly, these people that they want to friend me almost, they want to be close to me. And again, like I say, it's very, very, very seldom it happens, but they keep coming, and they keep like it's almost like they're attacking me, and then they'll say, "Have I done something to upset you?" And I'm just like, I didn't really like your energy. I'm so sorry, but I'm not vibing with you. It's nothing to do with you. It's nothing to do with me. It's just how I feel, and I can't change it.
Do you say that to people?
Yeah, but I can't lie. I've got this fucked up thing inside me that I can't tell lies. But I do it in a really nice way. You know, I'll say like, "I'm really sorry, but I didn't vibe with you." And usually they're like, "Oh, all right then." And I hate it. I hate that part of me.
That's be force field though. You'll be force field as early just to protect you. And you know,
Do you think it's brutal though? Because I think it's bloody awful.
no, I don't think so. I don't think so. We're not here to like everyone else and connect with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We're here to connect with those that fill our cups and, you know, energetically charge you and you feel inspired and motivated and want to be around. That's not everybody. You can't please everybody. You can't connect with everybody as well. Now, I'm very fortunate now at nearly 20 years of hairdressing. I don't have to do everybody's hair that walks in the shop because I've got a bit of clientele. I've got a clientele of people who I really enjoy doing. And I'm not saying there's some that you dread coming, but there's some that are more work than others that I still have a great connection with them. But the service I provide is a wee bit harder. It's a wee bit more challenging. But it doesn't mean I don't like spending any more or any less time with them. I just need to invest a wee bit more work in with them. But you're making a decision from the get-go to not invest any effort or work or potentially just protect yourself from that person's no for me. They're not my type of person.
What I've found though, see across the years though, James, what I've found is I have stopped myself from being like that, and I've forced myself to try to understand what might be going on behind that person's thinking, behind their behaviour, and I do. But now I just choose not to invest my time in that. I will relate to them and I'll be like, do you know what? Like, I get it. I get that you've had a hard life. I get that all of this has went on. And I really do genuinely have empathy for that person. But I'm not the person to be your bestie. I'm not the person to, hold your hand and skip up the park. I'm not the person that's going to support you with that. And even when I'm sitting with customers, when people come in, I'll sit down with them. I'm like, right, hi, I'm Stephen. I'm going to do your reading today, blah, blah, blah. And I have my wee thing. And then see if I'm not feeling it, I'll say, do you know what? I'm just not feeling that there's a connection between us. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to like step back from this and I'm going to get one of the other team members to come in and they're always like, oh, we wanted you. I didn't want you. And that's really brutal, eh? It's horrible.
But Stephen, again, if I could relate that to me, you can only do what you do. You can only connect with what you connect. And I think that's where in life that rather than doing things that don't fulfill you, or rather than do things that you don't get anything back, because that energy exchange is a two-way street. You kind of keep depleting your energy with people that you popped up by. When we chat, we always end up feeling buzzing after we've spoke to one another as well. So I think that, well, that's great because it's an energy exchange. When I'm in the salon, if somebody comes into the salon with a picture from me, I don't want to do that because that's not my aesthetic, that's not my look, that's not where I'm going to put my energy because I will feel frustrated, I'll feel stressed, and then all those things translate into my end finished product. Your end finish is your reading. And if you're not investing in that, you're not connecting with that, I think you'll be doing them more of an injustice by giving them a reading, by not being open and honest. You're not being brutal, you're being open and honest with how you feel.
Yeah. And that's so important though, isn't it? Like for all of us moving through life, that we're always open and honest. I do the same in my relationship. I say, you know, like 2 weeks ago, for instance, I said to Nikki, I was like, we need to speak because I'm not happy right now. She's like, what is it now?
And what was
Say that again.
what was it? If you, without delving into it, but what was?
Just because we hadn't really been connecting with each other, we hadn't, you know, like I was hugging her every morning. I'd be like, oh, come here, I love you to bits, and I would hug her, and she'd be like, Stephen, piss off, I'm busy, I'm trying to get the kids, and I'm like, whoa, I'm not happy, and I'm not happy because you're not showing me attention. And she was like, right, okay, you need to give me space and let me think about this. And then she came back to me an hour later, and she was like, I'm so sorry. I realised that I've not been giving you the attention. You've been hugging me loads and I've not been hugging you back. She put her arms around me. We had a wee snog in the kitchen, a wee like close huddle, you know. But like, see, if I hadn't just said how I felt, that wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, I think you both have to go off in that direction as well, because you're thinking of, again, the experience that's happening. You're living in that experience rather than the situation. And I suppose you can also sit down and look at that from a different perspective, because not everybody has the ability to say, right, I'm not happy and I need to chat here.
Mm-hmm.
If you can feel it and sit behind it rather than staying in it. So saying to someone, look, you know, I'm trying here. Is there something going on? What's happening in this relationship? Or is it the fact that they've got so much going on and I'm not contributing, I'm not giving them the support? Because just what I heard there now, I know I'm wrong because I know you're such a hands-on, but from what I heard there was, you know, she's busy, she's got the kids, she's getting all this stuff, and you're like, come here, you, come on, give me a cuddle. And she's like, Stephen, get away from me. I've got beans and toast to get ready, I've got the Wednesday's bags to get ready, I need to put them in shoe. You know, it's taking ourselves into that space of going, right, okay, well, I need more love. What does she need? She needs more support. She needs more effort. She needs more time given. She needs a bit of time for herself. And then that's when we stop making this all about me. And used to obviously have good dynamics within relationship, that you have got that ability. Not everybody has that ability. Not everybody has that connection with their partner to be able to say, I need a chat, I'm not happy here. And for that person to reciprocate that well, because the other person will then take that on the complete defense of, well, you're not doing this and you don't do that, and I need this and I need that. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not giving you that. This is what I need. And then I can help to give you that as well.
Yeah. I think for a lot of relationships, that is the dynamic, isn't it? You know, for us, it's quite different because, like, I'm like Mrs. Mop. I'm the cleaner. I make the kids their breakfast in the morning. I get them dressed. She gets their school bags on. She gets all their packed lunch stuff. So it's very much like it's this team that work together. But I'll always say to her, like, we always sit down and I always say, so what are you not getting from me? And she can never answer that question. She's always like, stop being a fucking dickhead. I was like, so what does a dickhead mean to you, Nikki? And she's like, because you make me think and talk about the stuff that I don't know what to talk about. So what is that? Expand on that. I didn't want to hug you every day because I'm not a huggy person. And I'm like, that's fine. But can we meet halfway and can we say that, you know, like for half of the time that I throw my arms around you, that you'll hug me back? All right. And that's how it should be, yeah. That's how we should communicate. But equally, sometimes it's the total opposite of that. Sometimes it's like, you bitch, you bastard. You know, it's not always perfect.
And that's an emotional response as well. And it's like that emotional response is completely valid in that moment. But it's then when you live in that. So it's like that's a difference of feeling it, but don't live in it. Mm-hmm. But don't sit in that space for too long, because you then start to cultivate and grow that. Yeah,
absolutely. And you know, when we go back to the whole talking about gratitude thing, I am so grateful for her and everything that she does, and equally, she's so grateful for me. You know, so we've learned so much over the last 20 years as a partnership. We didn't look at the past experiences that have hurt us because we've been through like some hellish experiences as a couple, but You know, we've always been able to communicate our way through it, and we're so grateful for everything that we've got now as a result.
Everything in life is the communication model, isn't it? And it's not just the spoken words. The everything. It's the touch, it's the body language, the connection, the rapport, all those things. And if you don't have them, if your body language is giving off something to what you think you're wanting, well, you're never going to get it back. So think about your language really, because that is the foundation for absolutely everything in life, and not just the spoken language.
Why is it you think, though, James? You know, I know I'm going down leafy lanes with you here, but I think it's important. Why is it you think that people spend so much time in loveless relationships that they don't want to be in?
Is it safer? It's the pain that you suffer and endure in that moment. It's less painful to be there than to give it up and go out and try and find somebody else. Again, we spoke about the pleasure-pain element, the pursuit of pleasure, the avoidance of pain. The avoidance of pain comes from a place of contentment, of safety, of comfort, of all of those things. Now, we would associate contentment and safety and comfort with nice things. But you're not growing when you're in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, you're sitting in pain when you're there. Again, when we go back to the human needs of what we need, the two fundamental things that we need is growth and contribution. If you're not growing, you're dying. So when you're sat in a relationship that has been horrific, it's all you ever know. So what if I go out there and I get another relationship that's worse than the relationship that I'm in? Or what if the relationship is even better? Oh, I don't know, that seems a bit scary. I'll just sit in this pain element here. I'll sit in this comfort zone, because that gives me certainty. It gives me significance, because I'm in an unhappy relationship. And 9 times out of 10, maybe 5 or 6 of my pals are in unhappy relationships as well. Seldom do you find somebody who's in a really unhappy relationship is around people who are in fabulous relationships. Because they go, that's not right. This isn't right. And then that can then bring on change. But again, it's the association with enough pain and the avoidance of that that would then create the leverage to take action to then change the end results from it.
It is really fascinating the way what we do to ourselves as human beings. You know, we go through all this pain for no reason.
Because we're all frightened to be rejected.
And actually, when you move through the difficult things that you need to do in life, it's not that painful. It's just lots of learning that happens in that, you know.
Suffering of pain, isn't it? Everything's about the suffering of pain that we've spoke about today as well. Because if it's me, and you're in a relationship where it doesn't matter what's happened to you. It doesn't matter if you're being abused or you're the abuser. It's giving you significance and connection to someone in some way. So therefore, you're important in that environment. You're important within that, because people feel that people have that need for connection. And they can connect in that way of being a victim. Well, I think we've said before about, you know, the Holocaust and people who go through are Holocaust survivors. And then in America, you hear it quite a lot. I'm 5th generation Holocaust survivor. You're living in someone else's suffering. You didn't that. It doesn't take it away from the fact that, you know, without your great grandparents surviving that, you wouldn't be here. But you're not a Holocaust survivor as such. You're associating with the suffering of what someone else experienced in a time way before you. So, you know, again, changing the thought process and changing the wording of that is, I am so grateful to be here because of what my grandparents, great-grandparents suffered, endured, went through, tolerated, how they found the ability to survive any of these things and come out the other side and still find the ability to thrive afterwards is remarkable. And that's the power of the mind. So you're a survivor of somebody with great resilience, of great tolerance, you're not somebody who is 5th generation Holocaust survivor. You know, and I'm sorry for putting that out there, because that's maybe a bit too controversial. That's just how I feel with it. You know, we associate tags, and the reason for that is because it gives us significance. So it's not wrong. We're just craving the significance in some way.
It's mind blowing, isn't it?
It's pretty fascinating, because, you know, I grew up in Glasgow. It was particularly rough and hard in many ways. And being a young guy that was gay, and at that point didn't actually know really about my sexuality, and probably looking back thinking, Did I know, or did I just suppress it so much because I was so frightened? So I looked for significance in being, I had, horrific to say, I had a two-fingered ring and I had a sovereign and all that, because I didn't want to stand out. I wanted significance, I wanted connection, I wanted to feel that I was part of it, I wanted that certainty within that, because if I took myself out of that and I was looking for significance somewhere else and I was looking for uncertainty in who I was, well, I would stand away, so therefore I would potentially be a victim. So it's the same in the relationship. It's safe. I associate enough pain with being with a group of people who, I'm not going to say bullied me, but probably took the piss out of me. But it was safer in this circle with people that protected me and looked after me, but still kind of, to a degree, mentally abused me. Same in a relationship. You're safer in a relationship with somebody that abuses you. Because what if you go into the big bad world and somebody abuses you even more? Or you have to make that change away from that person. You need to associate more pain with something. You want to change it.
I love that. I really do love that. See, 'cause that just takes me back to my previous relationship before I met Nikki. There was so much pain associated to that I had to change it.
Yep.
Um,
And it wasn't that 10 years or 5 years or 3 months of pain, you're going building up and building up, I'm going to get stronger, I'm going to get stronger, I'm going to get stronger. You don't, at one point you go, I'm done. Because the pain gets so strong, the pain gets so much that then all the things that you thought of missing out in, that became like the driver, that became the leverage, that became the motivator to go, I am done, that's it.
mm-hmm.
Change comes. When you take action, in that moment you decide, you take action, that's when things change. You don't go, oh God, it took me 5 years to get to end that relationship. It didn't, because 5 years you were in that relationship. It took you a moment to get to that end of the relationship.
That's how it was for me. It was like this snap inside me. I've stuffed everything into my bag and I ran. I just ran. And I ran like my life depended on it. It's funny the way what we do and how we. Anyway, James, I could talk to you forever and ever and ever and ever on this subject, and we're at an hour already. I'm so pissed off.
God, Steve, where does it go?
You want to just stay on till 12? Then we'll actually just. I'm joking. But I think
one thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're in that place, and if anything resonates that Steve and I have spoke about, and you feel like, yeah, I'm living in that suffering, I'm constantly living in that suffering. There's no real way of ending it other than making the choice, right? There's not some magic wand that's going to come along and go, oh, the suffering's ending. It's making that choice. But there's a prayer that is really important and really, really powerful. And that affirmation prayer, whatever it may be, is thank you, I forgive you, I'm sorry, and I love you. Now that prayer is to you. That affirmation is to you. And that's allowing yourself to not tolerate that suffering anymore. It's allowing yourself to not live in that place of suffering. I'm sorry for holding you back. I forgive you for living in that suffering. I love you. You're wonderful. You're great. Please forgive me. Let it go. Let everything go. And this is a moment of change. This is a time when you start to go, I'm not choosing to live in there. I'm not choosing to tolerate suffering anymore. Pain is happening to me, but I'm choosing to live in a beautiful state. I'm choosing to live in a joyful state, a loving state, whatever. All of those states, there's not one. Choose to live in all of those empowered emotional states. But really, that's something that resonates with me and lives with me every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. And you can say it in any order.
That's Ho'oponopono.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love it. And again, it's just a different way of thinking, isn't it? So Ho'oponopono, the Hawaiian letting go thing, is exactly the same as that prayer to the universe. Everything just fits together, doesn't it? I love it. So yeah, that's us. Done. And again, if anybody is, having problems or issues with their relationships as well, always feel free to send us a private message. I have got a long list of, I think, about 7 different charities and organisations that can help you and support you if you are thinking about leaving relationships that are very, very difficult for you. So we can always signpost you onto these relevant people, and that's kind of our aftercare thing. If anybody was really feeling like, do you know what, that really resonated with me today, we've got some contacts there that can give you counselling and support on ways of making changes within a difficult relationship, or if it was your safety that was at risk, they would be able to support you with that as well. So, hey, that turned into a very intense chat today, James. But do you know what? It is what it is. That's how it's meant to be.
Yeah.
Organic and beautiful and amazing.
Love this. Just like us.
So, I know we've got our last surgery next week.
Don't make it fun. Promise.
And if you guys as well want to go on and have a wee look at James and Nicola's podcast, James sent me the podcast the other day, and I listened to it. It's 32 minutes long, I think it is. And, it was just amazing to hear two of the most inspirational, lovely people chatting all about all the stuff that they were chatting about. I'm not going to share with you what it was, but it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So, turn up to life with your cup of tea, and you will absolutely enjoy their podcast. And you can find that whereabout, James?
It's called Just a Little Conversation. It's on Spotify just now, and we're just waiting for the approval for Apple's podcast. So it should be launching there soon as well. But we're doing something every morning just now, myself and Nicola, and it's just asking better questions, where every morning 8:30 on live on Instagram, myself, James Hughes coaching, and Nicola coaching by Nick. We're just we're asking each other a better question, waiting for the answer, and just putting it out there for everyone else to change that starting question in your day and allow that to resonate throughout and have a ripple effect throughout your day.
Fantastic. So go and follow James on Instagram and Facebook if you want to, but you'll be able to see on Instagram James and Nicola having their conversations every morning at James Hughes Coaching. It's going down the bottom of the screen right now. So James, thank you so much for 1 hour 7 minutes. You're on overtime. And everybody, thank you so much. Obviously, there's been lots of comments there that I haven't even looked at properly because we've been so engrossed in our chat this morning. So I do apologise. I don't think there's anything there, if I look at it, that was any kind of direct questions or anything like that. So we've not missed anything. It's just people really just backing up and reaffirming the things that we've said. So thank you so much. Nicola's popped in the comments there as well, just a little conversation.
There we go.
So
thanks, Nick.
Jump in, have a look, listen to it with a coffee and a Kit Kat. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And you've just released another one this week, haven't you?
Yes.
So yeah.
Okay. Go on and check them out. Just a little conversation. And that's what it's about. We may have some special guests coming on in the future, Stephen.
Maybe. maybe. You never know. But yeah. Thank you so much, James. And I will see you next Wednesday for our last Soul Man Surgery with James. So, James, thank you very much. I'll let you say cheerio. Hang about for 30 seconds at the end as well, just so I can properly say goodbye. But everybody else, I will see you tomorrow with our special guest. So we've got Lady Gaga on tomorrow, would you believe? And she's dialing in from New York. So we are absolutely delighted. Genuinely, we have Lady Gaga on tomorrow.
You joking?
Nope.
What?
So I know. It's really, really exciting. So tune in tomorrow for Lady Gaga. And I will see you all tomorrow. Bye for now.
Be strong.